All right, welcome everybody to episode 9 of the Final Vibe podcast. We're excited today to welcome Molly Cover to the studio, the in-house studio. Molly, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And then alongside us is my co-host Andrew White.
I'm here. Thanks, Kevin. Feels good.
Let's jump right in. Molly, how do you describe yourself to just an average person that wants to know a little more about you?
I am 35. I'm a mom. I've been married for 11 years, and I work part-time at The Crossing, which is a church here in town. And I think that's probably like...
Those are the big things.
Those are the big things.
The big things.
The big things.
What's the next level? What do you like to do outside of
level.
all the broad stroke things?
Yeah. Love in my free time to run. Probably the thing I prioritize. Think about what do I prioritize every day. I love to run. I love to cook. I love food. So if I'm not cooking, I just like to read about food. Like I love a good food blog. Love to just sit and look at a cookbook. Love to bake. Love to plan what the next meal is. Much to my husband's dismay.
He doesn't like you planning for meals?
He likes it, but he just doesn't want to talk about it all the time.
Oh, okay.
Like
he doesn't share your passion.
Like if it's 6:30 in the morning, we don't need to talk about dinner, but I'd like to talk about dinner.
I feel that.
So
you say you're a mom. Let's dive into that a little more.
Yes.
A mom to
4 boys.
4 boys.
Yes. So I've got an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 20-month-old. So we'll call him a toddler.
Two.
Almost
yeah, he's
2.
almost 2.
Yeah, 2 in November.
So 4 boys all under the age of 10.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have 2 guys here in their 20s who have no children.
No kids.
No kids between the 2 of us. So this will be an interesting podcast. I'm sure we'll ask the hard-hitting questions.
We're going to learn so much.
We're going to learn a lot, and the other moms listening.
I know.
Well, and I think we should say too, Kevin, that a big reason that we wanted Molly on the podcast is obviously because you are a mother of 4. And I know you personally and respect you greatly for a lot of things, not just the fact that you're a mom, but we know that you're not just a mom. So we want to hear about the mom side of things and then the whole life side of things and how that pertains to just leaving a legacy that you're excited about and that you feel passionate about leaving behind. So, Kevin, what's the first big question?
Okay, so 4 boys. How do you even begin to describe what that is like to have 4? I can't even wrap my mind around that. I had one younger brother growing up.
Okay.
My dad had 2 brothers and a sister. And I think that was more average to have a larger household in the 70s and 80s, but it's more rare now. I feel like to have a family size of that number. So what is that like?
Usually when people see me, there's always the first comment, like total stranger will be like, 4 boys. Or when my youngest was little, they would always go look in the stroller and go, is that a girl? Like really hopeful that I didn't have 4 boys, which kind of makes me sad because I love having 4 boys. But it is, my answer to that question is almost always, it's exactly what you think it is. So I think the best example would be that tonight, while I was cleaning up from dinner, my husband brought a steel drum home. He's a musician, brought a steel drum home from work. So my boys were taking turns playing the steel drum and a shaker while we listened to the Hamilton soundtrack.
That's amazing.
And the piano. The piano was in there too. And that is like a very standard noise level.
So basically you're putting together a full band.
I put on noise canceling headphones.
Just all the time.
It's getting, I call it noise pollution, but it's loud. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So I would say it's super fun. I am really proud to have 4 boys. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm not sad that I don't have a girl. I mean, girls are awesome. I'm a girl. I think girls are amazing. But I'm really thankful for the gift of having 4 sons and what that looks like for my family, even though this season of life feels really intense.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine how crazy it is for the early years. But do you ever look forward like a decade and think your oldest will be 18?
Yeah.
Right. So like, I guess the point where they're all still in the house, but they're all as old as they can be before going to college. What do you think that's going to be like?
I think about those years a lot, actually. When we talked about having kids, we always talked about having 4 kids. And that's how things ended up, which we are thankful for. I know not everyone has that in their control, but that's just how it worked out. And so when I do think about the future, I think, man, this is going to be super fun. I grew up with 2 siblings, and my cousins were around the corner from me, and they had 4 kids. So I had 4 cousins around the corner. And I just always felt like the more kids in the house when they're older, the more fun it is. So I think I get excited. I get a little stressed about having teenage boys because I'm like, I kind of know teenage girls. I was a teenage girl. I had a sister. That's what I know. And my brother's 4 years younger than me, so I wasn't around as much when he was a teenager, but I'm excited for it. And I'm really excited for the idea of like having 4 adult kids and what that looks like.
Do cell phones make you more worried about
so stressed
anything?
out. Yeah. So like my husband and I have that conversation probably once a week about technology. Our kids have no technology right now. Like we have an Apple TV and they watch shows that we've approved on Nick Jr. and Amazon Prime and Netflix. And that's the extent of their technology. They don't have computer games. They don't have iPads. They don't have cell phone games. They're starting to realize that they exist, but we pretty much shut down screens in our house.
That was going to be my question. Do they know that they don't have those things? Like, do their friends have them and they don't, and they're like feeling the restriction as much as like a kid could?
I think we're getting there. We're pretty in tune to like where they play and houses that they go into. Right now our rule is like you play in our house and you can play with neighbors outside, but you can't go into neighbors' houses. And we have amazing neighbors, but I just don't expect every family to have the same screen time rules. And I think screen time every study shows that like screens are affecting our brains. We are all as adults addicted to our iPhones. And so I don't need that to start at 5, 6, 7, 8. So my kids definitely know that some of their friends have iPads and have access to them. But our rule is like at our house, we have our screen time as our show. And if you're at someone else's house, no screens. And a lot of our friends where we leave our kids for longer periods of time are families that we kind of all have the same values. And so I'm not concerned. My boys were at a friend's house yesterday and I had zero concern. I was like, if you play video games, I know your dad super well. And I know that you only have like limited access to certain things.
I find the technology thing's fascinating to me. The iPhone itself has only existed for 12 years, maybe 13. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of great things that I think adults can point to that have stemmed from it, but there's plenty of negative. So I find it interesting that so many kids kind of jumped on board. I feel like that was a lot of parents that just didn't really know. I feel like more parents now kind of have a grasp of what it's like to give a phone to a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or what the right ages are. Do you see more parents that are kind of going the other way now and saying no for a longer period of time?
I feel like it depends on what circle I'm in. And we have a really great community of friends. And I feel like we're all kind of on board with like, our kids aren't going to have phones until they can drive. Our kids aren't going to have their own iPad or their own computer in their room. But I still feel like it's very common. And unfortunately, I think COVID has made more parents feel kind of like their hands are tied. Like, okay, so my option is I don't work and we don't make any money and we can't eat, or I let my kid be on an iPad for 2 to 3 hours doing learning games, not doing bad stuff. And so it's this weird trade-off right now. And sure. I already felt the tension in March and April when I knew my kids needed to practice spelling and I couldn't sit there and like hold their hand and do spelling. And I knew that there was a computer game where they could practice it. And those things are good. I don't want to at all knock those. But I do think just knowing how addictive, especially like the iPhone and iPad is. And I was at the eye doctor last week and she was like, I think that adults wearing these blue light blocking glasses are kind of hilarious. She goes, but I think for kids, they might be necessary because we're exposing them to blue light, like essentially when they're born now.
Messes up their entire circadian rhythm. And
yeah.
They're 5 years old.
Yeah. And we don't know the long-term effects.
Right.
I think that's the scariest part because it makes me think of cigarettes. I think I brought that up in an earlier episode, but there was that whole generation of people who were introduced to cigarettes, and even physicians and surgeons were like seen in advertisements smoking. Like it was a thing. It was a part of the marketing that even doctors were smoking. And now 50 years later, we know that smoking causes all these terrible things, but those people didn't know. And I think it's easy for us to look back and say, oh, they were foolish. Like, how do you start smoking cigarettes when you're 13 years old? And I just wonder if, I was going to say social media, but just maybe even reverse a little bit, just screens in general are going to be that thing. And we just don't have the data I mean, we have accumulating data, but we don't have 50 years worth of data to say for sure,
right,
this is terrible. It just makes me wonder.
Yes.
Well, then there's the other side is that so many jobs today rely on some of those talents that people can have from staring at a screen all the time.
100%.
So then it's that happy medium where I was making websites in 5th grade, and that turned into my first job after college, just because I had a head start on a lot of other people. So yeah, I cannot imagine the balancing act that parents have to go through when whether or not they have access to these devices and what they do when they're
for sure.
on
And
them.
it's not, I don't want to come off as sounding like it's all bad and screens are evil, but it's just one of those like, man, I don't know yet, and I don't know what I don't know,
Right.
and I don't want to figure out that it's too late when my 14-year-old is addicted to an iPhone or whatever it is.
Totally. Kevin, we're only like 28, 29, but do you ever find yourself getting grumpy with young kids when their attention spans seem so detached because of screens?
Absolutely.
Do you ever feel like
yes,
that grumpy old man rising up inside you?
Yeah, I've worked with college students for 10 years now, and you can see it. And it's, we talk about it in the writing that we get to do for Final Vibe and the other things that we do, where sometimes you'll write a great piece and it's too many words and you just have to shorten it because attention spans are.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting thing that it's always in the back of our minds of capturing as much attention as possible in the shortest amount of time, because everybody's got to go on to the next thing.
Yes.
And if you think someone's going to sit down and read or watch whatever you've got, it better be really, really good.
And really, really short.
And really, really short. And even if it is, sometimes it's still, the most popular, Vine, 6-second long videos takes off. And then I think that was when people were like, 6 seconds is pretty good. Let's stay that or shorter is perfect.
I think there was a statistic that came out that showed that we had officially shortened our attention spans less than a goldfish.
Yes.
Like maybe that's even from a sermon I heard.
It's from all of the digital relationship stuff.
That's right. That's right. Yep. I remember that now. How sad is that?
Very sad.
A little orange fish
Yep.
can pay attention longer than I can.
Yes.
In theory.
Probably true. I was just going to say that I hate how addicted I am to my phone. I'm trying to work on it, but it's very difficult.
It is. I was going to ask you, Molly, what activities do you go to to replace what many other parents are using for screen time?
That's a great question. Because I've been home with my kids, a lot of it has just had to be independent play. And I think a lot of that stems from having younger siblings. And so the older ones learned that I can't necessarily rely on mom to entertain me, because there have been seasons of me needing to really take care of a baby. So my oldest boys love Lego. It's not Legos, it's Lego. It's the plural. We learned that this year. And they have what they've called Legoland in their room. It's just a giant bin of Lego. And they play, they'll go in there for hours. And our kids each have their own speaker in their room. They're like the Sonos speakers, and you can store audio on there. So my 2 younger boys have their playlist that they can go in and you just like tap the top of it. So they can go in their room. And even like my 20-month-old will tap the top to start his music and get books out and get toys. And my 2 big kids have an audio series called Adventures in Odyssey that actually we listen to as kids. It's like a Christian radio show that we grew up listening to. And so my boys listen to Adventures in Odyssey, and they play Lego, or they just like do imaginative play in their room. We do a lot of like dressing up as superheroes, and then lots of bike riding, lots of scooter riding. We've got a creek behind our house. So if weather is remotely nice, lots of like go be in the woods, just go be outside for as long as possible.
Sounds like the perfect childhood for young boys.
It sounds so refreshing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's not always, I'm probably making it sound like.
No, but I used to say this with my cousin and I growing up, that the most said sentence between the two of us was "let's pretend," and then we would finish it, and then we were just always pretending to be doing something, or we were living somewhere else, and that was what we did for years and years and years, and in the basement at grandma's during Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I feel like we've lost some of that.
Yeah. So I will say the one like awesome thing that is, there are lots of good things, but one awesome thing that's come out of COVID in our house is our boys just having to play together. And for, over a month there, your only friends were your brothers, because we didn't see anybody else. We didn't see any other family. We didn't see any other friends. And so you just have to get creative.
I was going to ask how they all get along. So that's great to hear that COVID is, however it was before, has
they
helped.
fight all the time, but
Sure.
they also like all get along in really sweet and special ways too. So it's been fun to see those friendships develop over the years and like the different ways that they pair up.
I would like to ask you, what are each of your boys like, and their personalities, and do a few of them pal up together? Is it like 2 and 2, old guys versus young guys type of duo thing?
It actually changes now. So my oldest is 8. That's Henry, and he's going into 2nd grade. He's very independent. He's an introvert. He is highly, highly creative. He comes out of his room every night with a Lego creation that is insanely detailed. Like he can watch a Star Wars movie once and replicate the ship just from what he saw, and it's unbelievable. So if he's not an engineer, I don't know what he's going to be, because it's shocking.
You need to funnel him that way.
Exactly. I mean, we're like every night we're like taking pictures. Like, this is unbelievable. Should we send this to somebody?
Should we get a Henry Instagram page of Lego creation?
We honestly should. That's a really good idea.
It could be a cool thing for him to like take ownership of.
Well, and it would be good for us to remember it too.
That's true. Legacy.
This morning while I was getting ready for work, he made a ring box and went and got one of my rings, and I had David get on one knee.
Oh my
and give
gosh!
Me the ring. It was
he made David re-propose.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, Mom, I just want you to remember that this counted.
They were very excited. So yeah, Henry's very independent, really chatty, really friendly, like ridiculously friendly to adults. White has probably experienced that more than he'd like to admit.
Henry's awesome.
My kids love
He
Andrew
calls me
White.
Andrew White.
Andrew White.
Yeah, he calls me Andrew White.
I love
Full
that.
name every time, never just Andrew. So yeah, that's Henry. He's a lot of fun. My second is Teddy. He's 6. Teddy has like the biggest heart in the entire world. Like, just makes me want to explode. The way he takes care of his brothers, the way he takes care of friends, the way he just really cares about people and remembers things. He is just creative in a different way than Henry, and the way that he solves problems, the way he's very much into imaginative play and like dressing up as superheroes, dressing up as all sorts of things. The latest thing is to dress up as Dad. And so he just wears my husband's clothes and shoes around the house and eats whatever he eats and sits wherever he sits. And they're just Dad all day long.
Easy enough.
I know.
It's a good Halloween costume.
I was just going to say, it'll be the easiest Halloween you've ever
had.
had.
Like, and unfortunately, that means David, my husband, has to like wear certain clothes so that he and Teddy can match.
Right.
So
yeah. You have to set your son up for success.
It's honestly been a lot of laundry for me, but
totally worth it though, right?
Totally worth it.
For the memories.
Also very cute. Very, very cute to see a 6-year-old wearing a grown man's shirt around the house for a full day.
Yep. So that's Henry, that's Teddy.
And then Lewis is 4. Lewis is my redhead. He is super sweet. I feel like he's kind of coming. 4 is a really awesome age, and I think it's one of my favorite ages so far as a parent, where you just kind of switch from being a little kid to like some deeper thinking, some more processing of emotions. And for boys, I think it's different for girls, because I've seen lots of girls be verbal faster, but all my boys all of a sudden at 4 have been able to kind of process what they're feeling, what they're thinking, ask big questions. So he turned 4 in June, and we've just had some really sweet seasons. And he and Teddy, his older brother, have just all of a sudden kind of bonded and become best buds. And that's been really fun to see, so that Louis isn't always left out as a little kid.
Yeah. Well, and obviously Henry and Teddy were there first.
Yes.
And they probably developed a little bit of a dynamic duo relationship. And then Lewis came along. Do you feel like it was hard for there to be a third guy thrown into the mix?
For sure. I think kids do really well in pairs. And like my family didn't. I was one of 3, but we just noticed like when Lewis was about 2 and we were thinking about having a 4th kid, we're like, Lewis needs a buddy. Like, everybody needs a buddy. And it's not necessarily who's closest in age to you, but you just need a pal at the house that you can hang with. And I felt like Lewis was the baby basically until George was born, and he like finally got his buddy. And Henry and Teddy share a room, so that's also just a special bond that they have, where they just spend the most time together. You know, they get to stay up a little later and play, and they wake up and get to play when they wake up. So it's been fun to see Lewis kind of come into his own and get to be a big kid. And it's fun for Teddy to get to feel older and like the leader and it not always be that he's the youngest one. So he kind of thrives.
That is cool. I'm curious, before we talk about George, does Henry have any unique responsibilities being the oldest son? Or
Yes.
how do you think about that? Is he the leader of the clan?
He for sure, we talk to our boys a lot, all of them, about being leaders and how they need to be leaders in the home and they need to be leaders at school and they need to be leaders just with their friends in the community. And so at home, what it looks like to be a leader is to help mom during the day because, you know, the two younger kids need more. So Henry and Teddy get a lot of responsibility picking up, especially since we're just all home a lot right now. We're doing a lot of chores around the house. I'm trying to teach them how to do some more specified chores, like you're going to learn how to clean a bathroom. I make Henry vacuum, things like that I don't know if I was doing at 8. My mom was pretty good with chores, but I'm like, I need some help around here.
You should totally put those boys to work.
I was going to say, yeah, for sure.
You won't be doing any housework by the time,
That's my goal.
Henry's like 16. So
that's 100% my goal. But I also think it's just important to teach them, like, because large families are somewhat unique right now, to teach them that, like, part of being in a big family is that we all have to work. It can't just be, I can't physically do it all during the day. The weeks that I do, like, I don't do well. Henry did just start mowing the lawn this spring, and that's been like a big deal. And it's hilarious because there are no other kids in our neighborhood that are his age. Most people in our neighborhood are older and have like lawn services. There's this 8-year-old who's every time.
It looks like slave labor out there.
It does. Some neighbor
I'm
was
all about
like,
it.
does he get a reward? And I was like, his reward is being part of the family.
Seriously, it's called dinner.
Yeah.
His reward is dinner.
He lives here for free.
Tell us about George, the newest addition.
George is the newest, latest and greatest. He's the baby of the family, and he's gonna be the baby. Like, we're already like, you're doomed. You're gonna be spoiled. You're the baby. He's very cute. He's got super curly hair. All the boys love him in their own way, and he loves his brothers. And so it's been fun. I think I was a little concerned having a fourth kid and having a baby at a stage where my kids will really remember having a sibling born. I barely remember my youngest being born, but I'm like, Henry's going to remember all of this. And each boy loves George so much, especially Teddy, my big-hearted one. Like, I mean, since the day we brought him home from the hospital, holds him until he falls asleep. And now when George wakes up, like, he freaks out to see Teddy. He's so pumped every time he gets to see Teddy. So that's been fun. George is what we call a toddler terrorist right now. He just destroys my house all day long. He just destroys it, and he loves peanut butter, so he carries a jar of peanut butter around most places, or a spoonful of peanut butter to eat while he plays. So it's
the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
I also love peanut butter.
I
I
mean,
relate to that so much.
I mean,
Who doesn't?
The whole thing is sweet that they all. I feel like George is going to grow up in a really cool house. He's going to have these older brothers that are going to take care of him. And
he is going to think he's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
We've inflated his ego so much already. It's a problem.
Well, the curly hair.
He could go through school and every teacher could be like, "Oh no, it's the last one." You know, it depends on the brothers and how they set that up.
That's a good point.
Also a good point.
That's a good point. He might be living in a big shadow.
This is very true.
Yeah.
Are there? I know there are preconceived notions about kind of the order that kids are born first, second. Mm-hmm. You can say that certain traits are related to that number. Have you read up on any of that? Do you think any of that's true?
I have not read up on it. I've heard like bits and pieces from people that have. I think a lot of it's true. Like, they're just, the oldest is the leader. They're independent. I'm the oldest. My husband is the oldest. And we like get on our oldest son the most if he's like mean to his brothers, because I think we have flashbacks to us being mean. Mm-hmm. We're like, don't be like that. And I've heard the second is usually the peacemaker, and my second is totally the peacemaker. And Lewis is definitely the third. I feel like that's just a tough place to be the third kid. Like, you just kind of feel stuck there. And I think there are definitely times where he feels like he's not big and he's not little and he's just stuck. So I don't know. And George is definitely the baby. So I should read more into it. But so far, when I hear things, I'm like, yep, that sounds exactly right.
Right. I have 2 dogs. I call them by the wrong name all the time. How often does that happen in your house?
Every day, all the time.
All right, just making sure.
Like, when they are born in the hospital, I call them the wrong name. Like George, we called Teddy in the hospital. So they look the most alike.
They do. I was going to say they look similar.
Very similar. Yeah.
I have an interesting question. Do you ever, like as they age, do you ever see tendencies or habits or personality traits that you can identify with yourself and think, oh, wow, I'm really glad they got that. And then obviously on the other side, oh boy, like that maybe isn't the best thing. Or do you ever see strange things and wonder if they're David's fault?
Yes, to all of those. I for sure, it's weird to watch yourself and your kids. And I don't know that you notice the good things as much as you notice the bad. You know, like I'm a big feeler. I have a temper, and I totally see that in one of my kids. I see them have big feelings and not know how to process them. And in some ways, it's good because I can identify with it. And if I'm in a good place, I can walk through them with it. And in some place, I feel like it'll totally like almost trigger me to be like, no, I have no time for this. Don't do that. And there are definitely times when one of my kids is exactly like my husband. I mean, it's like just his mini me. And so I'll laugh because we tell our one son all the time, like, be aware of your body because he's like breaking things. He hits, like, he just is always hurting other things, other people. And my husband is the same way. And I'll just look at him and I'll be like, be aware of your body. And we just laugh because we're like, we just know, you know.
You got to make a joke about it.
You got to.
Because what else are you going to do?
I just want things in my house to stop breaking, to be honest.
Seriously. Is everything in your house steel?
My theory is that stainless steel walls would be like, instead of painting, because what's the point of painting?
What is the point of painting?
My whole house needs to be repainted right now, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
There's also peanut butter on the walls, thanks to George. So
thank you, George, for the peanut butter on the walls.
Shout out to George.
We touched on documenting a little bit. I try to do a little bit of, we'll call it research, but you could call it maybe creeping online.
Sure.
Try to look at your Instagram. It was private, but I did see that you have stay-at-home mom listed.
Mm-hmm.
You have 1,500 photos, and it says just pictures of my kids.
Yes.
So I was going to ask, are those 1,500 photos pictures of your kids?
I would say, yeah, like 99%. White
That's
follows
awesome.
me.
I can attest. Yeah,
Sure.
I follow Molly, and
that's awesome. So do you look at that as a way to document their life? Because it was something that we've touched on over the last couple of weeks is what can we do to not only plan for our legacy in the future, but then also what can we do to make sure that we're documenting what's happening today so that we can actually learn from it. And it's also just fun to look back.
Yeah.
So is that kind of how you look at social media, and how do you document this amazing time of all of these boys' lives as they grow?
Yeah, I think I was dogging on screens earlier, but I think one of the most awesome things is that I've had an iPhone since my kids were born. And so I have a crazy amount of photos that I can go back and look through. And that is primarily what I use Instagram for. I mean, I think it's fun to share certain photos with friends. I know my parents don't live in town, and so that's a great way for them to see pictures, and my siblings don't live in town, so that's how they can see photos of the boys and what's going on. But it's been really, now 8 years in, we go back and love to look back at Instagram pictures because you put the best of your life on Instagram for the most part. And so it's just sweet memories. And I actually have this app that connects with a company called Chatbooks. And so every time you get 60 photos, it like binds them together in a photo album and mails it to us.
Wow,
so now I've got like 15 chapbooks at home that are just our photo albums.
like physical albums.
Physical, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Physical. And it's like my kids' favorite thing. They just pull them out probably every day and look through pictures. And I'll probably have to get some of them reprinted, like they'll fall apart. But,
Sure.
you know, I feel like growing up, our parents all had photo albums and we're getting prints and putting them in things. And I've just been horrible about that. So it's now every time I take a break from social media, my husband encourages me. He's like, just go post a few things so that we like remember this and get it in a chat book. So It's been kind of fun.
Right. And that's kind of how I've shifted myself with looking at social media more as a representation of my life at that time, not necessarily trying to share something with a bunch of followers, but it's more for us to go back and look on. And then also, like you said, share with family that can tune in and see what's happening in your life.
Yeah. And at this point, like my followers have got to know that it's just pictures of my kids. Like if you don't, I think one time I just posted a picture. I was like, please unfollow me. If you're like annoyed, this isn't going to change. It's just pictures of my kids.
Yeah.
I feel like of all the Instagram accounts in the world, that's surely the least offensive. one out
Surely.
there.
Let's hope so.
I mean, you can't get mad about kids.
Until we get
Do you have a
the later
dog?
one.
We used to.
Oh,
You know about Riggins, right?
I know, but I thought maybe you got a new one.
No. Oh my gosh, no. Last summer, I was at my breaking point, and we had a sweet 10-year-old Beagle Basset. And I was like, I can't keep 4 kids and a dog alive. And we have a woman that lives down the street who's amazing. And she was just kind of looking for a companion. So Riggins, our dog, lives down the street now. I actually saw him on my drive here. He was out for his walk.
Do you think he's super confused by that?
No, he loves his life with Barbara. He's so happy.
Oh, Barbara.
He maybe misses us, but I don't think actually does at all.
Probably not.
I got some hate on the internet for giving our dog away.
That's tough. I've heard other people do that, and I don't judge at all.
I probably would have judged when we first got him. Like if I found out that somebody gave their dog away, I would have judged. But you don't know what you don't know, and my life has changed.
If your life is better and the dog's life is better, and you know the owner of the dog's life is better, it's a win-win-win.
For sure, his life is way better. He loves his life. He's very spoiled and happy.
Molly, when you were younger, what was your vision for your life in terms of personal development and where you wanted to end up? Where did you think you wanted to end up growing up, and then are you there?
Well, and were 4 boys always the part of the plan?
I think I always wanted to have 3 or 4 kids. I can't think of a time where I didn't. I don't know. As I got older, I was like, I just think boys would be fun. To have 4 boys would be awesome. I didn't really think it would happen. I was like assumed, as most people do, as most people did as I continued to have children. Surely one will be a girl. But I've always wanted to have kids, always wanted to be a mom ever since I was little. My mom stayed home with us when I was a kid. So I think the idea of staying home with kids was appealing to me. My mom was really happy. She was a great mom, is a great mom. And so it never seemed to me like being a stay-at-home mom was what you did because you didn't have anything else to do, if that makes sense. My
Totally.
mom served a lot in our church, served a lot in our community, was busy all the time. Like we were always doing fun stuff. We had a great community of friends. We lived near family members. And so to me, like staying home with kids was a sweet gig.
Totally.
Is how it appeared to me. At the same time, I liked working in high school and I liked working in college. And so right out of college, there wasn't this idea of like the end goal is to be a stay-at-home mom and that's just what I want to do. It was like, man, I really like working, but I think at some point I want to have kids too. What's that going to look like?
Yeah. And first of all, how old were you when you got married?
23.
23. And then how old were you when you had your first?
I was 27 when my first son was born.
So what did life look like for those 4 years-ish?
For those 4 years, I worked at The Crossing, which is a church here in town, and I worked at the front desk for 2 years. I was the office manager is what the position was called. That position no longer exists. There's like 8 people that do way more than I ever did. And then for 2.5 years after that, I believe, I was the director of our early childhood ministry. So infants through 5-year-olds.
And that was like the beginning of The Crossing.
It was
the
earlier.
genesis.
It was the earlier years.
Yeah.
I was an intern and then came on staff like when we were moving into the building. So things were just fresh and new and we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, I think the pastors knew what they were doing, but I did not know what I was doing.
Right. And did you meet David during that time?
I met David in college, actually.
Oh, okay.
So
Tell us that story really quick.
I'll make it quick.
I mean, you don't have to spare us any details.
It's long. It's more drawn out. I met him when I was a freshman in college. He was a senior in high school. And I mainly just knew who he was because I went to The Crossing and I knew his dad was my pastor. And I volunteered for a ministry here in town called K-Life. And he was still involved. His sister was involved. And so I just knew him through that. And then his freshman year of college, my sophomore year, he became a K-Life volunteer. So we crossed paths a lot. But he was in a fraternity. I was not. And in my mind, he was just a frat guy that always
You weren't in a fraternity?
No, I wasn't in a sorority.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
I'm just messing with you.
I was not in a fraternity or a sorority. In my mind, he was a frat guy that always had a blonde girlfriend, was like
I love that.
how I would have described him.
Hilarious.
And then my senior year, summer after my junior year, summer after his sophomore year, we both were interning at the church, and we had a mutual friend who kind of made me realize, like, oh, David's a nice guy. Like, he's not all frat all the time. Like, he's kind of fun. And we ran in the same circles. And then when I graduated from college that summer, we kind of reconnected and started dating at the end of that summer, and then got married like a year and a half later.
Awesome. There you have it.
Yeah.
There you have it.
At one point, I did yell he would tell people that we had dated before, and I was very offended by that. I didn't want to be associated with them, so I yelled at him one time down the office hallway. David, we have not dated, we are not dating, and we will never date.
Wow, just to be clear.
Just to be clear. But I will marry you in 2 years, so.
Yeah, the Magic 8 Ball would say.
Yeah.
Did you date any stereotypical jerks before you met David?
No, I did not date a ton. I honestly was like, I had a few boyfriends in college, but they were kind of short term.
Yeah.
I hung out with some not awesome guys in the way that you hang out with people in college, and,
Right.
you know.
They just didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut. Probably like, yeah, they couldn't man up and ask me out on a date, and I hung around for way too long.
Yep.
So, but it all ended okay.
Well, what about aspirations? Did you ever have like a dream vocation or a dream career?
Oh, man, this makes me sound like a loser, but like, I didn't. I think ultimately I knew at the end of the day, I wanted to have kids, and I don't think I had a super great grasp on what it would look like to be a working mom, because my mom stayed home with us and didn't work outside the home, and I knew that that was plenty of a job. Like, she did plenty of work. In my mind, I was like, I'll have some kind of job outside of college, and I'll enjoy it for however many years I want, and then I'll start having kids, and I won't be able to work. And so that's been something I've kind of been figuring out ever since I had kids.
I like that actually, because I think sometimes people hyper glorify those people who like say they are an astronaut now, and they're like, I knew I wanted to be an astronaut since I was 2, you know? And it's just kind of, it's cool, I guess, for the story, but there are so many people out there that just genuinely were figuring out life along the way. Like I could point to a few random things I thought I maybe wanted to be as a kid, but I never really had a clear vision for like being an accountant or being a physician.
I know. I envy those people, but it's always kind of changed based on what I was doing. And when I went to college, I would have said, I never want to work at a church. Does not sound at all like a gig I want. And by the time I graduated, I was like itching to have a job at the Crossing. So a lot changed in 4 years. And I just feel like the more I learn about myself, the more that changes.
What is the discerning force behind the decisions that you make every day? Just like the small moments, the small decisions that you make.
The biggest force is just my relationship with God and the gospel. I think if you just zoom out big picture, anything in my life, I'm going to go back to the fact that Jesus is king. He's king over my life. He's king over the universe. And so that's how I make my decisions. And sometimes day to day doesn't reflect that. But I feel like recently, with all the COVID stuff and being home and figuring out what my life looks like, you kind of have to zoom out and figure out what the force is. And so that's for sure the discerning force is my relationship with God.
I really like what you said there. You have to zoom out and figure out what the force is.
Yeah.
So, Molly, yesterday, Kevin actually shared something from Reddit. Wasn't it from Reddit?
I have it pulled up.
Yeah, pull it up, because you'll be able to explain it more clearly than I will. But essentially, it was a thread, and it was very similar to, I think, an idea that we've been... You mind if I look at it?
Yeah.
Very similar to an idea that we've engaged with. But it says 100 years from now, only a handful of kids and grandkids will have any memory of my life. 200 years from now, at most, there'll be a photo in an old family scrapbook with my name in the margin. 300 years from now, no one in my family will know I existed, outside of a half-finished family tree. Yet ultimately, all of their hopes and pains, successes and failures, dreams and depressions will be the direct result of my having existed. So it isn't that bad. And we don't have any context for this post. But Kevin, what do the comments say? Like, how did people react to that?
Everybody thought that that was pretty heavy. I guess that was posted on Tuesday at 9:00 in the morning. Everybody thought that was a little too much to hit And it hit first thing in the morning.
Too early
Yeah.
to be thinking about the big stuff.
Yeah. But is that something that you think about when you think about the future of your boys? Like just talking about like the family tree. And I mean, you're going to be a prominent name on that family tree when you have 4 boys and it's a lot, I would imagine, to just know.
Yeah.
How often do you think about that and their future?
I think about it a lot. I think about it looking back at my family tree, and I think about the way that God brought my family together and brought my parents together, brought my grandparents together. My grandparents on my mom's side had an amazing faith, and they didn't come to know God until they were like in their 40s. And so I think a lot about, they both died in the last few years. And I've been thinking a lot about legacy and all that they left to me, and I'm sure they would look back at their lives and say, we made so many mistakes. And yet my memories of them are being these, this amazing patriarch and matriarch of the family. And now I look at my parents and I look at my in-laws and just these amazing people that they are. And so it makes me think, honestly, I think about all the mistakes I've made and I go, okay, man, if God is sovereign, which I believe that he is, and he's over all things, if Jesus is king, then I want to glorify him and I want to live a life of excellence and one that reflects him. But I ultimately have no control over my legacy. Like I have control over what I do right now. But at the end of the day, if people can look at my life and go, to God be the glory, then my work here is done. And if that means that like, to God be the glory means I kept my house clean and my boys fed and that's all I accomplished, that's awesome. And if it means I accomplish amazing, great things in my career, that's awesome. But I don't know that I think about like the specifics of my legacy other than, man, I hope at the end of the day, my boys remember to love God and love others.
Yeah. Well, I think too, again, some people overhype legacy in that they only think of the macro level.
Yeah.
And they think like, well, I want to be remembered as a successful business person or this or that. And fortunately, we haven't had anyone say that on the podcast.
Not yet.
We ask everybody the legacy question, and we've had some cool people, I mean, on the show, and nobody's ever said, I want to be remembered for fill in the blank, some materialistic idea. And so I think what you said is awesome. I mean, the sum of your life is just going to be an accumulation of all the tiniest moments. And if that was keeping the house clean, feeding boys, being a loving mother, and stewarding them in their faith, then that's a home run legacy.
Check the box, you did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's how much more valuable is that than any superficial thing you could pursue?
It's the most valuable thing.
I was going to ask you, what do you think about people that don't really have a worldview? You know what I mean? Like people who are just, and we're not trying to push any agenda here, but like people who don't think about God, don't think about maybe if there's not a God, maybe it's all just science or we're all just super sophisticated bacteria.
Sure.
Like, how do you think other people make their decisions?
I do think, man, I think about that a lot. And I wonder where they go when things get super, super hard. Because I think all of us, if you haven't hit like that hard moment in your life where you've kind of like hit a brick wall and go, oh my gosh, something in my life just fell apart or my life just fell apart. When things get really hard, I have that hope to cling to of the gospel and of, Jesus being king and God being sovereign over my life. I think the biggest thing I wonder is where's their hope? Because the best people on earth are going to fail you. If my hope is in my kids, that's going to be a disappointment at some point. If my hope is in my marriage, that's going to be a disappointment. If my hope is in my career, that's going to be a disappointment. So I wonder where that ultimate hope comes from. Because when you strip it all away, like if it's all science, I guess it just doesn't matter. And I think some people really are like, it just doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Kevin, I feel like a lot of people say that and yet don't necessarily act that way. And that's just purely an observation. But it seems like people act like things matter.
Yeah.
And
I do think like you can 100% not have the idea of God be something that's important in your life and say, I want to live an excellent life. Like I'm living for today, or I want my legacy to be that you do look back and know that I was a kind person. Like all of those things have value. I just think I like to look at the creator of all those things and go, you can be super kind. You can do your job with excellence. You can care for others. You can be a leader. You can serve. But man, all those things reflect Jesus and who he is. It doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah. I think the most interesting people in life are those who act on behalf of a greater good and aren't necessarily willing to put their nickel on what that greater good might be. And I'm not judging those people. I think that's a really hard question to wrestle with. I wrestled with that question for years, but it is sort of a bizarre thing to identify that this is good and this is bad, and yet have no real opinion on the matter. But yet you live your life that way. I think about traffic, like, is it cool if somebody cuts you off and then they flip you the bird in the window? Most people would be like, well, that was kind of uncool. They would use words like that. But why is that uncool? I mean, if it's all meaningless, then, that guy just edged you out in that moment and he's going to get to work 5 minutes early and beat you to the coffee bar. But Kevin, do you like getting cut off in traffic?
I don't drive a lot these days. I'm trying to remember the last time I was cut off. It's been a while.
Kevin doesn't know how to drive. He doesn't have his permit.
My office is like 2 minutes away from the house.
That's awesome.
So even when I went to work, it wasn't very much.
That's awesome.
So one thing that Kevin and I think is really interesting is that this is the first time in history, unless aliens existed and they had technology and we're unaware of it or, whatever. But as far as we know, this is the first time that people have been documenting things in audio form that we'll be able to reference in 100 years or 200 years. We didn't have podcasting.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you'd want to say to your boys? Like if they were to listen to this as adults, like, is there anything you just want to like impart to them now that would last?
Man, that could get heavy real fast.
Let's do it. We like heavy.
We like heavy.
I mean, if you're too heavy because I'm a crier and then you guys will feel weird.
Nobody's going to feel weird. We want this to be meaningful, I mean.
I think I would want to tell my boys the thing we tell them when they go to school every day. Love God, love others. And we got that from another family friend. And I just think it's the best advice you can give your kids, you can give your friends, you can give yourself. I hope that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when they leave the house, they think, how can I love God? How can I love others?
That's such a cool habit. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, David heard it from a friend. And so that's just what we tell the boys. And then, if they have a bad day at school with a babysitter, with us, we can be like, man, were you loving God when you did that? Because it just kind of brings it back to 2. And if you look at the 10 Commandments, the first 5 are 5 ways to love God, and the second 5 are 5 ways to love others. So it's a great way to kind of sum up the law, if you will, and get real nerdy.
Do you talk to your boys about story a lot? Like, does the word story have a big role in your dialogues with them, and like being a part of a certain story or a certain narrative, maybe?
Yeah, we talk about the phrase we've talked about is like that God has a story, God has a plan. We sing a song to our boys before they go to bed called God Has a Plan for My Life. And the end is I just can't wait to see what's in store for me. And so knowing that you're a part of a bigger story, we're all a part of a bigger story. It's not just you, it's not just Molly's story, it's not just Henry's story, but it's a really big story God's writing and he's put us in it. And so how can we love God? How can we love others and be a part of the story?
That's really cool. I have one last question on a serious note, and then maybe we can lighten it up. And
yeah,
what advice would you give new mothers?
I would tell new moms to give yourself all the grace in figuring it out because it looks different for everybody. And comparison is the thief of joy in motherhood. And I think all moms and all parents waste a lot of hours comparing themselves, their capacity, their children, their marriage. And we are all different. I don't know any other mom that's exactly like me. I don't know any other husband that's exactly like my husband or parents exactly like he does. I don't know any other kids that are exactly like mine. And so take the good advice when it comes, take the helpful advice when it comes, but give yourself a lot of grace. And I also tell new moms, and my mom told me this, God gave you instincts for a reason, and so listen to them. God gave you, as moms and dads, if you have a gut feeling of something you should be doing with your kids, do it. You're not dumb. Even if you've never done it before, if it doesn't work, stop. Do something else. But go with your gut. You're smart. You're a lot more capable than you think as a parent.
That's really powerful.
I love
I'm not a parent, but this conversation inspires me to be a dad someday. If
awesome.
if that's in the cards for me, then that's inspiring. And I think about legacy all the time. Obviously, we do this podcast, but I just think there are probably few things in life that are richer than leaving a meaningful legacy to your kids and to bring them up in a meaningful way. So thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome.
All right, let's have some fun. Molly, what are your greatest fears? And you're not allowed to say snakes or spiders.
Oh, okay. Snakes is up there. I feel like my greatest fears are usually like, losing a family member. Like those are like
The meaningful things.
The meaningful things, like a family member dying is like my greatest fear. I really don't like heights. Like really, really, really don't like heights. And I think that's the one thing that gets me.
What happens if you're on the Empire State Building? We sequester you, we take you up there, and we show you, hey, you're 110 stories. What happens?
I'm very fearful of heights, and to the point that like we have a back deck that's pretty. You've been on our back deck. It's pretty. The second level's pretty high up, like it's 3 stories up. And just being up there with my kids, I have to do a little self-talk of like, there's a railing, we're all okay. It would take a lot for us to fall off this, but
something really weird would have to happen for me to go launching off this deck.
Exactly, but my mind goes there anytime we're outside.
Wow.
Yeah. What's your typical breakfast?
Almost always oatmeal.
Love
Very
oatmeal.
boring. I usually do baked oatmeal with some berries, some peanut butter, fruit, coffee. Coffee first.
Kevin, what have you been having for breakfast lately?
A bagel. And then I will do a protein shake 2 hours later. But a bagel with some strawberry rhubarb jam on top.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's fancy.
At Hy-Vee. It's a local, I don't know where it's from, but it's good. It's really good.
That's awesome.
Are you a farmer's market shopper?
I'm not. I want to be, but...
It's like, I feel that, like I want to be there too, but I can't.
Don't we all?
But you know what I mean? Like, it's just so cool to be able to say, oh yeah, I just picked. Actually, what's funny is I saw my mother today and she gave me these gingerbread cookies that were sort of like non-corporately wrapped. Yes. And I was like, oh, where are these from? And she's like, oh, I went to the farmer's market and I bought it from the Amish community.
Yes, they have
so hip
stuff. Have you had the Amish gummy bears?
No.
Oh.
Is that allowed?
Those sound illegal.
They're amazing.
It does sound like code for something more scandalous.
It does.
Have you had the Amish gummy bears?
But if you get the Amish gummy bears, you'll know because they're unreal. They're like next level.
That's so funny.
Really?
They're laced with something.
Yeah.
Probably.
Just good vibes, hard work. They're not laced with electricity.
Of course not.
That's funny.
What is your...
you go ahead, Kevin.
What is your most used emoji?
The like hysterical crying face one.
Yeah.
Is it the crooked one?
Not the crooked one.
Okay.
I've been using that one more lately though.
Me too. Yeah, I never did. And I'm
changing it up.
It is nice.
Yeah.
It's a good shake-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any emoji that you find particularly upsetting? Like one that you're just like, oh, don't do that. Or actually, do you use any emojis
honestly,
to be passive aggressive?
I don't know if I do a passive aggressive one. This isn't an emoji, but I hate it when people say lol, LOL.
Lol.
Because you're not laughing out loud.
No, you never
did. Are.
You didn't.
Right.
You're never.
But now people type literally LOL for laughing out loud.
But honestly, I still don't think that they are.
Maybe not.
If
If I type to you literally LOL, I LOL.
Yeah.
I do use LOL way too much.
You're more honorable than most,
That's true.
I think. No, I meant that as a compliment.
I appreciate it. It's just a funny thing.
I just feel like if I'm actually laughing, I'm not going to write LOL. But
What are do you have any texting pet peeves beyond that? Abbreviations or habits?
Man, I don't know.
If you say one word in a response, do you put a period after it?
No. I know that this is like a thing now, but I think texting is so hard to read that my pet peeve is like the one word response in general, like a sure.
Terrible.
And you're like, why did you say sure? Like, and it's generational. I've heard like older generations are like, we're just communicating via text. We don't need to give you our emotions. And I feel like people my age are like, oh yes, no, there will be an emoji or a GIF with every text just to let you know that we're cool and there's we're not being passive aggressive.
I totally agree. I see that to be true. But I think in general, old people, sorry, not old people, people that are like
older.
Yeah, older than I am, they're really bad at texting, in my opinion. But it's because they don't have emotion. And so I don't.
They're just
like, they're not fun. That's what I'm trying to say. They're not bad.
Yeah, they're just using it to
communicate. Boring.
Which is,
My wife's grandma she puts 3 periods at the end of every sentence on Facebook, which makes everything seem really like ominous.
That's so disturbing.
Happy birthday, Kevin. ... And you're just like,
might be your last. Better leave your legacy.
But it's really sweet. She doesn't mean, I don't know why she does it, but she does it, and just like the comment and move on.
My favorite thing is when older people on Facebook will just post like a personal message as their status. Like, Barb, when are we going to the farmer's market? But it's just their status.
Yes,
and you're like, oh, like,
they're still figuring
someone
it
tell
out.
her.
They're figuring it out.
Someone
Facebook
tell
is a
her.
stressful place right now. I try to avoid it.
Totally. Weird place to hang out.
It's a very weird place to hang out. But the other alternatives are just as weird as far as social media goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
Do you have any guilty pleasure foods or like a go-to munch?
Go to almost every night is some dark chocolate chips and popcorn. Really hard to avoid.
That is the best combo.
And that's not like guilty. Like,
right. I guess I just mean like it's not carrot sticks and celery.
No, yeah. I mean, that's not what I'm having. And I probably have a glass of wine. No, I have 2 glasses of wine every night. We're not going to beat around the bush here.
Cheers.
Just cheers.
I've got 4 kids.
No,
I don't think anybody's going to bat an eye.
Yeah, I think people are going to start doing that.
I think I told somebody that earlier on in COVID. They were like, how are you coping? I was like, I have wine every night. And they were like, every night? And then I had to think, am I going to lie? Or am I just going to like double down and be like, yeah.
Every night.
You heard me. I said 2 glasses.
Did I stutter?
Did I stutter? My aunt, who lived to be 104 years old, claims, and this is verified by family, she had at least 2 glasses of Carlo Rossi Burgundy wine every night for the last 44 years of her life.
I fully support that.
So if you want to be 104, keep doing what you're doing.
I don't know if I want to be 104.
Nobody wants to be 104.
But I can't. It's not bad for you. I'm not drinking in excess.
Right.
And I love it. So
living the dream.
Those are the 3 things. If you can check those 3 boxes, then no questions asked. You keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your ideal movie genre?
Not a huge movie watcher, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair.
But, and if I'm being real honest, the movies I watch are with my husband, so it has to be a compromise usually. Like, rarely are we both like, man, we can't wait to see X. So if it's up to me, it's going to be like a rom-com or a comedy.
Yeah.
He loves the rom-coms. Andrew does.
Yeah.
I like them in moderation.
You know a lot more about them than I do.
Yeah, that's fair.
Than I do.
You're a big movie watcher, though, yeah?
I don't know. I wouldn't say so. I don't watch movies that often. Like, my wife and I will watch maybe a movie once a week on the weekend.
I feel like there was a phase where you watched a lot of Monsters, Inc.
Specifically, just had that movie on repeat.
Yeah, yes.
It is a great movie.
And Titanic.
Titanic. Yeah, Titanic always comes up. It is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just what I'm thinking of, those 2 movies.
Well, to be fair, there was a season after college when I was sharing a room with a roommate to keep rent down. My rent was $185 a month.
That's amazing.
We had a tiny little, like, old school TV, like an actual box. It wasn't a flat screen. And on VHS, I watched Titanic every Friday morning after like a Bible study that I had attended. I go to Bible study at 6 a.m. and then come back home and I watch Titanic for 3 hours.
Every Friday morning.
Friday.
Wow. That's intense.
It's embarrassing.
There were 2 VHSs.
Best time of my life.
So you had to get up and
two.
switch the
It was,
VHS.
yeah,
There's
2.
two.
It's 2,
There's
seriously,
two.
yeah.
You just switched
I can
it.
tell you, every time we're watching the DVD, I just like sort of get flinchy because I know when the VHS just goes black.
So,
But the DVD just keeps going and I'm like, oh, okay. It's like
does it end at a really
Sigh
good
of
spot?
relief.
Like where it like
it is pretty ominous. Like
They
they
make you
time
get
it.
up
They
to
time
switch
it really well
I can't
because
remember.
no, because Mr. Andrews is in the room and they've got the blueprints out and they're like, is it gonna sink? And he's like, oh, it's made of iron, sir. I assure you she can. And all right, this is embarrassing. But it's like
great.
It's like ominous moment, and you're like, oh, I gotta switch the VHS now. It was
That's
probably
amazing.
intentional.
Good for them. Yeah,
That's amazing.
Anyway.
I will say, if I had my way, like I love 80s movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Nice.
Breakfast Club,
Sure.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Those to me are like, I could watch those every day.
And the soundtracks made them so good.
Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah.
I have a good question, I think.
Go for it.
You spoke about cooking earlier.
Yes.
And your passion for it. If you had to choose one dish, dessert, whatever it is that you make, that your grandchildren talk about, and they're like, this is the dish.
Oh, gosh.
What would you choose? That you make that you think is like your 10 out of 10 meal?
Oh, man, this is like...
So you make a lot of really good meals.
I don't know if I make a lot, but I just like to cook a lot. So it's kind of one of those like, what would it be? I don't know. Honestly, my favorite meals that we make, my husband and I cook together, and he usually like grills, and I do veggies and sides and dessert. So I like to bake bread. So I would love to like continue to get better at that. I'm still learning a lot about it. I love to bake desserts. So like, I think my best desserts are probably brownies and brown sugar cookies.
Can confirm the brownies.
Can confirm the brownies. And I do make a good chocolate chip cookie.
Can also confirm the chocolate chip cookie.
I actually also make a really good chocolate cake. Like it's very, very
chocolate
good.
Cake with chocolate icing?
Yeah, of course.
I'm starving. This all sounds really good.
Dude, I'm hungry too. This is brutal.
I almost brought brownies. I should have brought them.
Oh.
You should have brought them. Next time again.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. We come back next week.
And chips. Yeah, man. I don't know. I might need to think on that.
That's okay.
The chocolate chip cookies is a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think probably baking is like what I would want to pass down more than the cooking, just because baking is kind of my like.
Yeah.
If I really have time, I could go to town in the kitchen baking.
The bread thing is, we had a great friend of ours that used to live right next door, started getting into bread. There's nothing like having a friend that gets into baking bread because they can't eat all of it.
You cannot.
So they bring it over all the time.
Yep.
I know.
And now we miss that a lot.
I've got bread dough going at home right now, and I'm already like, oh, I'm going to have too much for my family to eat.
Well, now you know where I'm at. So
there you go.
Seriously.
Bye-bye.
Seriously. If you played Major League Baseball, what would be your walk-up song?
I think about this a lot.
Okay, this is an important question.
This is a very important question. So there's a live album of the most recent Coachella with Beyonce. Actually, I don't know if it's the most recent, but I think it would be literally any track off of that, but probably the intro track where they're like, Beyonce, welcome to Beyonce Homecoming 2018. And then
awesome.
there's this like, there's a marching band is her band for the whole album.
That's sweet.
It's a phenomenal album.
It's specifically the live version from Coachella.
Yeah, you have to listen to the Homecoming album. There's also a live concert on Netflix. It's
your walk-up song is going to be like 45 minutes long.
It wouldn't be the whole concert. It would be the intro song.
Totally, yeah, just the shining moments.
But man,
when the beat drops.
I think about this a lot though because we have a lot of baseball on at our house.
Yeah,
and I'll never be a Major League Baseball player, so it's easy for me to think about.
Yeah, you can dream all you want.
I can dream all I want.
You know what? I'm probably never going to be a Major League Baseball player
probably,
either.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say
that's upsetting.
We might all have reached definitely.
That's upsetting.
You're not going to be a baseball player. I don't want to like.
I listened to a podcast.
Well, probably not. I don't want to rule it out.
We'll just stick with probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
I listened to a podcast last week, and they were asking the other people around the table how old they were when they realized they weren't going to be a professional sports star. Most said like 8 or 9, but 29 is pretty. Yeah, it's pretty late entry.
I'm not willing to.
You don't have to give up yet. I don't think you should.
Yeah, why give up?
You hit an age.
It's a loser's mentality.
In your late 20s where you realize everyone on the TV shows you watch, they're all younger than you.
That's true.
I don't like this. I don't like it at all. It's happening.
Upsetting because you're like, oh, okay, well, there we go. I guess I won't be on TV, huh?
Yeah, and now there's like impressive, like there's politicians that are like my age, and you're like, goodness gracious.
Well, I feel like when I watch Mizzou sports, when I was in college, it was kind of like, oh, come on, man.
You suck.
Meet me at the rec next week.
Yeah.
I could have done better than that. And then now I'm 29, and I'm like, dude, some of these guys are a decade younger than me.
Yeah, they're children.
Some of these kids in college were born in 2000. Beg
I
your
mean,
pardon?
someone I work with is over a decade younger than me. That's
not cool.
It was unfortunate when I realized that. I mean, I knew it.
Did
but
you
when
ask her not to mention it?
Well, I just
ever?
asked how old she was, and I was like, "Yep, you're 24, and I'm 35, so I'm 11 years older
Math
than you."
says.
Math checks out.
That is upsetting. That is upsetting.
It's not going to stop either way, I guess.
What's your Netflix lineup right now?
We are rewatching The Office, and it is so life-giving.
Favorite character?
Probably Michael Scott. Man, he's so great.
I love to hear you say that because so many people are out on him.
I love Michael Scott. I love Kelly Kapoor because I love Mindy Kaling.
Yeah.
And I think rewatching it, knowing that she's like one of the brains behind The Office.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's so, and Ryan is this like weird side character. And then the whole time now rewatching it going, you wrote the show.
Yeah, he
like,
wrote
this
the
is
show.
your show.
Those are his
BJ
jokes.
Novak, right?
You wrote in that you had to dye your hair blonde and do this. It's amazing.
I like too that they're fairly minor characters.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Yes.
Because you see all the time where you like watch a Kevin Costner movie and it's like produced by Kevin Costner. You're
Yes.
like, all right, Kevin Costner.
And we got it. We got it, dude.
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I nailed that audition.
How do you feel about Andy Bernard?
I really like him. I mean, I don't like the character's so obnoxious, but I like Ed Helms a lot. I really like Ed Helms.
No, he's for sure funny, I think.
He
And
plays a lot of obnoxious people.
Well,
but he's
and
still likable, which is amazing.
But in person, he's like super straight laced, just like nice, normal guy. He's 0% obnoxious, except for the fact that he plays the banjo super well, which is so bizarre.
I know. I see. That's what I've always wondered if. I guess what I'm trying to say is I came to the realization that he had to be very talented musically because in like 8 different episodes he's playing various like antique like stringed instruments.
He plays. What does he play? He played something bizarre in the last episode we watched, and I was like, he's like a legit, very good musician.
Right? Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah,
I
like
know
that. Are you a big Office guy, Kevin? Do you and Jacqueline watch The Office?
No, so I watched The Office as it was released back in the day. So I loved it in high school, but don't remember it. And then
we didn't either.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I tuned in.
Rewatching is phenomenal.
What season are you in?
I don't know.
Like, are you far? Like,
yeah, we're like Jim and Pam just found out they're pregnant.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They're
probably like
engaged.
season 6 or 7, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Spoiler alert to everybody.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, come on! If you haven't seen The
Also,
Office
if you
now,
haven't
get over
watched The
yourself.
Office,
Just kidding.
Yeah, seriously, it's like
We
2020.
spoiled Titanic.
It's like when people
week.
talk about Harry Potter and they're like, "Well, I haven't seen it. I haven't read the books," and I'm like, "Dude,
My son
Come on.
ruined the Marvel series for our babysitter today, which I won't say what he said, but she was like, "We're in the middle of watching those right now."
Oh, that is awkward.
I was
That
like,
is
Henry,
unfortunate.
that's called a spoiler.
You need to learn a new word today.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, wait, I was gonna. We have 2 that we have to ask.
Yeah,
Okay.
you hit it.
How much protein do you eat every day?
Gosh, I have no idea.
No idea. That's fine. You don't have to.
Zero.
Would you say more or less than 300 grams?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's
how
probably
many
less.
grams, but I would say less because I try to only eat meat one time a day.
Okay.
If
Yeah. Okay. Talk
I'm
to us
not
about
a
that.
big- I don't love meat.
You just don't like the taste, or you don't like the thought of killing animals?
It's less about the killing animals. It's more about like I don't feel awesome when I eat red meat. I don't really care about eating pork. I'll eat chicken. I like chicken. We had chicken tonight. And I like fish. I like seafood. So we probably have salmon once a week. But a lot of it is just like the processing of it, and that a lot of meat is not very good for you, which sounds like I'm talking to some protein guys here, so I'm not going to dog protein too much.
Kevin and I were curious. We have no dog in the fight.
If I opt for plant-based protein when I can.
Yeah. You think being vegan is more trendy than being a meat eater?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's like, it's less about the trend to me and more about like what I like to eat. But I also know like eggs are really good for you, and I don't really like eggs.
Yeah.
So protein's kind of a struggle for me because I don't.
Sure.
I have to kind of be thoughtful about it because sometimes I'll be like, oh, it's been like 2 days and I don't know.
Right.
Do you do any like plant-based pastas?
No, I actually just got some of the chickpea pasta. I need to try it.
It's really good.
I eat a lot of chickpeas.
Would totally recommend. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. You definitely eat less than 300 grams of protein a day, by the way.
I have no idea what 300 grams would be.
150 would be a lot. A ton.
Yeah, if I had to guess, if you eat meat once per day, I bet you get like 30 to 40 grams a day.
Okay.
But you're flourishing, so who needs protein?
I don't know if I'm flourishing.
You heard it from me.
I could be rotting away, but here I am.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. No, go ahead, Kevin.
The other question that we have to ask is what your favorite fast food restaurant is, and if you dip it in Chick-fil-A sauce.
Chick-fil-A, and yes, 100%.
So far,
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
It took me like 3 seconds until I got it. But that was funny.
It's just hard for it to not be Chick-fil-A. What else would it be?
That's what I'm saying. What would it be? What's number? Okay, we'll just start saying. What's your second favorite fast food restaurant?
I really, truly don't, and I don't say it to like dog fast food. I don't eat fast food, and a lot of it's probably because I don't eat a ton of meat. So like going to get a burger is not super appealing to me.
Yeah, or a bean burrito at Taco Bell is just underwhelming.
I have never been a Taco Bell eater. Like I've probably eaten Taco Bell like 5 times in my life.
Yeah, regrettably every time.
Yeah,
Totally.
I really don't like it.
Do you have a favorite local place in Columbia to eat?
Yes, several.
Mm.
I love, surprisingly, Main Squeeze.
Unsurprisingly.
Yeah. I love Main Squeeze. I love Uprise Bakery. I love Cafe Berlin.
Those are 3 good choices.
I love Beatbox.
I haven't been to Beatbox.
Oh, Beatbox is phenomenal.
Have you had their Pop-Tarts?
Yes.
Wow.
There's a place that makes Pop-Tarts in town?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. Follow
They're
Beatbox
amazing.
on Instagram.
I have no idea. Never heard of it.
Following Beatbox on Instagram is a problem.
Yeah, don't actually do it if you don't think you're going to eat there often.
It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Can't wait.
Make strawberry rhubarb Pop-Tarts.
Can't wait.
They're so good.
Love Pop-Tarts.
Not a lot of protein in them.
I was just going to say, Pop-Tarts don't have much protein at all.
No, but they
Bread
are good.
does. Eat up your
Really?
bread. Bread.
I mean, I eat.
Bread's good. I mean,
I love bread.
not compared to like a buffalo, but
Sure.
you know, there's
There's some.
more than a Pop-Tart is what I'm saying. Like, what's your ideal vacation experience? What would it be?
Ideal vacation would be by water, preferably like at a beach. Lots of sitting around and reading. Lots of unscheduled time. I don't mind a few activities, but I'm not like the adventurous vacationer. I want to eat good food. I want to read some good books. I want to be able to, be active doing fun things, but nothing. I'm not going to go climb a mountain.
Do you sleep in on vacation?
I have a really hard time sleeping
In general?
in general.
Gotcha.
I mean, I would love to sleep in, but
I wonder why you have a hard time sleeping in. I have no
It's
idea
so
why that could
bizarre.
possibly be after hearing about your life.
I know. Honestly, we're trying to plan a kid-free vacation, and I'm wondering, like, a few days in, will I be able to sleep in? Because it sounds amazing to sleep till like 8 would be awesome.
Oh, that's sleeping in.
For me right now, it
Wow.
would be.
What time's
I'm
bedtime?
We're always lights out by 10, unless it's like a weekend and we have plans. But
Yeah. Then you push it to like 10:15 or
if we go to bed at midnight, the next day it's going to be really
it
hard.
could be tough.
Because I'm a night person. But it's not hard for me to stay up late. But if I do, I'm going to pay for it because I've got kids up early.
That
Yeah,
makes
they don't
sense.
care what time you went to bed.
No, they do not.
Yeah.
They do not sleep in.
If you were at a wedding and the drinks were free, what would you get?
Wine.
Same thing.
Yes.
2 glasses.
Probably 3 at a wedding.
Well,
It's a
yeah,
wedding,
it's-
Yeah.
We're celebrating.
Are you going to tip the bartender?
I should.
That's a confusing answer.
I mean, I should have cash for that.
Oh,
It's like assuming a lot.
It's true. Should we go to a cashless society?
No. But I
Or
don't really have
seems
a
like
stake
a
in the
hassle.
game. I don't know. It seems like a hassle.
They haven't been consulting you.
No.
Once you hear the math about the penny and like that it costs more to make it than it
Yeah,
it
I'd
is.
be fine
I don't know
without the penny.
argument.
I'd
Yeah.
be fine without the penny.
Maybe we'll phase it out. Like we'll go over to the penny and then we'll see how people do. Then we can look at the
I mean,
nickel and
I don't
decide.
have it like I never have cash on me, but somehow I still think we should be able to have it.
No, that's a good point. I mean,
Trying to not
no,
get
I'm the same
political.
way. I'm the same way.
Yeah,
Is
mine's
it political to have an opinion on this?
Probably.
Probably now, yeah,
Seriously?
for sure.
There's-
Oh, shoot, well, I
it's-
feel bad now.
It would depend on if
I'm already sure I've been too political about protein, so
That's a good point. We'll probably have to cut that out.
I don't know. I don't think Trump has a stance on currency, but when he does, then it'll be political.
Got it. Okay, my bad.
cut it out.
Do you like watching any Netflix documentaries, or is it purely like
No,
let's
I
chill
like-
out, laugh, and
No,
have a
I
good
like
time?
I like a good documentary.
Same.
I'm married to somebody that does not, but like I love a true crime documentary. I like true crime in general.
Do you listen to the podcast?
I don't listen to true crime, the podcast, but I do enjoy a true crime podcast. I kind of like to binge listen though. Like I want to be like painting a room in my house and be able to like listen to it all the way through.
Totally. Yeah, because then you're left wanting. You're left, what happens?
Yeah. And a lot of my podcast listening is kind of like in and out, like out on a run or before I go to bed at night. And so I don't want to listen to true crime then.
Yeah, that
seems weird. Seems creepy.
That is, yeah. Yeah. Do you ever have nightmares?
Sometimes, but they're kind of disconnected from the day. They're just like weird stuff.
Is there any common theme in your dreams? Or do you not have them regularly enough to know?
I have regular dreams, but they're all very bizarre. Like I probably just ate something weird before I went to bed.
Totally, yeah. Kevin, do you dream?
I don't remember my dreams ever.
So you're saying maybe?
They say that everybody dreams. So I guess I'd have them. Yeah, everybody has them, but I don't know. I don't remember. I don't wake up and remember what happened.
I love crazy dreams.
I do too. I wish love talking about my dreams.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
wake
fun.
up and just, I don't know. I have nothing.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, not for everybody. I think you are missing out though.
I feel like
to be fair.
I love hearing when people tell me about their dreams, they're always hilarious and make no sense.
Yeah. That's the best part. It's so nonsensical.
I don't get them.
It's really a confusing
like I was
thing.
in a house, but it wasn't my house, but it was.
Yeah, I never get that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like all my dreams.
Do you think it's weird that humans have to sleep?
No.
I think it's weird that we're like
you think it's a waste of time
for a third of our life.
Let's like so we are now alien invaders arriving on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sleep because we're aliens.
Right.
Okay.
But these people, it goes dark and then they lay down and they don't move for a long time. What are they doing? Are they okay? What's going on?
I think it's a great question.
I mean, if you
makes me wonder
that way, it sounds weird.
I have my own reasons for thinking what I think, but I'm just curious what other people think.
I do think laying down and being unconscious for multiple hours a day is, of course, it's strange, but we got to do it.
I don't know, man. I love going to bed. I have zero problem with it.
Are you ever afraid that you'll stop breathing, like when you sleep? Like, because like, how will you remember once you're asleep?
No.
But
these are
if
not
it happened
things
once,
I think about.
Yeah, I don't
think about that.
I'm going to tell you right now, you have 4 kids and you be up in the night for several months. You have zero worries when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
You think, I get to go to sleep.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
Can you sleep wherever you want? Like, could you fall asleep in an armchair?
Not now. When I have like little babies, yeah, I can fall asleep. I do fall asleep sitting up.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What is a passion or an interest that you have that you don't think a lot of people know about?
I don't think it's totally unknown, but I love to run. My goal in the next year is to run a marathon.
Ooh.
That's very cool.
I don't know that it will happen.
Why not?
Mainly because of COVID, because races keep getting canceled.
Yeah.
Also because of life.
Yeah.
And just because of physical limitations. But I think that's something that I'm trying to get more serious about as far as training goes and not just being like, no, I'll run 10 miles today, but like, what do I need to eat in order to run 10 miles today?
Ooh, now we're talking.
Probably more protein, huh, guys?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Hey, protein is not quite as important for endurance runners.
So,
unless you're trying to be the most jacked performance runner of all time, which I'm not getting that vibe from you, but
you're not getting the
correct me
vibe
wrong if I'm wrong.
From somebody that doesn't know what 300 grams of protein is.
Yeah, that would basically be like an entire buffalo.
Sounds awful.
Cool. No, that is a really good one. Kevin, it's been a good podcast. I'm going to set you up because you're just so good at the outros. So give us the outro. Give us a couple plugs. Give us some updates. What's going on in the Final Vibe world, and then we'll call it here.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, Molly Cover, thank you again for sitting down. This was inspirational, to say the least. I know that I've taken a lot from it. I hope our listeners do as well.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
We enjoyed it.
Don't forget, everybody listening, if you are looking to change your life and focus more on your own legacy, a Final Vibe membership provides you with immediate access to a community of people who are doing just that, as well as other exclusive content that we are creating. Today's episode was produced by co-host Andrew White. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to future episodes. Tell one other person about the podcast.
It's just one.
Just one.
Or
Just pick
27.
one person, or everybody that you know. We do appreciate all the support that we have received thus far. And we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Final Vibe. You can check out our website, apparel, coffee, blog, all kinds of stuff at finalvibe.com. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you back here next Tuesday for episode 10. Thank you so much for listening.
And enjoy your Tuesday.